a financial advisor, a tax strategist, I mean, they're great to have because they, obviously they know what they're doing, but it's also educate yourself, go ahead and, set up, look into if you can do a self-directed account, like a 401k or an IRA, or do the Roth, absolutely do the Roth. I tell my kids all the time, max your Roth out, max as much as you can, as long as you have it. And then, you also have to save some, you want to have money for the rainy day, have those advisors and mentors. In my life, I was very fortunate about having certain mentors at different companies, and it just takes time to just reach out to the group of advisors that can really truly want what's besides the agents. Obviously, agents know what they're doing when it comes to contracts. They really understand. The athletic directors at the schools that, they know what they're doing. But these NIL deals, this stuff's happening in high school now. It's not just even college, it's getting younger and younger. You're seeing kids that are 9, 10, 11 years old that are getting, these type of contracts. So it's not even just the kids, but also how do we structure this, or what do we do with it?
Welcome to the Throne of Wealth, the podcast that empowers you to reign over your financial future. Each episode brings you tax strategies, wealth building insights, and stories from inspiring entrepreneurs. Each episode brings you tax strategies, wealth building insights, and stories from inspiring entrepreneurs. The Throne of Wealth is brought to you by King of Kings Accounting Firm, where financial challenges become opportunities for growth. Let's get into it.
Welcome to another episode of The Throne of Wealth. And today we have a special guest with us who has built his practice and career based on faith, finance, and NFL freedom. Ryan Hughes on building wealth and protecting athletes. Welcome, Ryan, to the show today. And it's such an honor to have you here today and, to learn more about what you do, about what you have found and how you help, the athletes.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me on, Karen. I'm excited. So glad to be here.
I'm so excited of, learn more about your story, background, and what passion you to do what you do.
No, it's great. So my I have 6 kids, so that's where it started, right? So and
wow.
I a lot of parents are they go through life and they're complaining about the other coaches or what's going on, and I'm like, you know what? If you're going to complain, you should coach, because it's not as easy as everyone thinks. That's where it all started, and having that, obviously when I started out, I wasn't very good at it, and I'm still not the greatest, but it's over time you learn, how to talk to with the kids and what motivates them. How to get them to become their best, and so that's really my passion. And I still have one daughter, just a fourth year in college, playing a collegiate athlete.
Wow.
And I had 2 others that played, and so that's really the passion. And they're like, Dad, you really should talk to and try to help other, these other families, athletes, or not just athletes, but influencers in general. I have a musician in the family, so there's all kinds of things that tie into this. And being just the background of where I've came from with finance and banking and tax strategies, or having the connections like yourself, it makes perfect sense to, especially with what's going on with the collegiate and NIL and NCAA and all the money going around. How do you navigate through it? So it just makes a huge amount of sense to try to help these young athletes and students become have a legacy. So that's really where it all started.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, to learn. How can someone start, because a lot of us don't have not even an idea where to start.
Well, no, that's true. And that, what we're doing right now, come on, talk to people like yourself, myself, our network, there's trusted people that really want to help. You don't necessarily have to be in that NIL space to look at what, tax strategies and just making sure that you have your entity and things are set up properly as you grow, especially as your income increases, and some are like, well, when do I do that? You definitely want to have that, the way I look at it is, first off, have that entity set up, have that, at least have that, start with an LLC, you don't want to, that's typically where you want to start. And then of course, get the bank account. So you're transacting inside of that entity versus personally, which most people, they start out and they're just sole proprietors. I don't want to pay the money for the, as you know, and it's like, well, there's zero protection. It's hard to do any type of tax structuring. I mean, it's just like, start there, at least talk to someone, at least have a discovery call, check with yourself, or, or someone you trust that in this space, or not even in this space, but just someone in the network that we all have, those connections. So that's that's where I would say start there. At least have that 15, 30-minute call.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an hour discovery call. And most good, our tax advisor planners, they'll have that discovery call too, and then figure out what the next steps.
Yeah, I start inquiring, right? Because the issue is that sometimes we just want to run with everything, but it's slowing down and it's going faster when you're planning. I always say that, and lack of knowledge doesn't mean that you can't ask the right professional. So or you don't have help. You're not alone. You have help. Yeah.
And look, with AI, I mean, not that may or may not love it or like or dislike it, but it's something that's out there that people have the ability to use. You got to verify it, right? It's not, you can't always trust what it says exactly, but it's you can still ask those questions. Of course, there's Google. There's all types of ways to search out there. There's YouTube videos. There's so much at everyone's fingertips.
So much information, yeah.
And we didn't have it, when we were younger.
Yeah, I didn't
the library.
I wish I would have had it back in 2008. I wish I would have had some sort of knowledge, or I was early in my career back in 2008, 2007, where recession started. So I wish we would have had the resources we have now accessible to us, right? And that's why we're having these conversations. So I'm fascinated with, what you do for the entrepreneurs, for the athletes, for the community. Ryan, you built non-recourse loan LLC around helping people invest through their retirement accounts. What inspired you, in that mission?
Well, just, I was helping, clients with their actual bank accounts and helping them get, set up. But the problem is they wanted to purchase real estate and use leverage. And there just really wasn't many options out there or nationwide options. So, maybe we can lend here in this state, but we can't do this state. So when you're out there as an entrepreneur and you're looking to, you have a, solo 401k or an IRA, and you're looking to self-direct it outside of the market, you want to be able to, you may not have hundreds of thousands of dollars to go buy a property, but you might have 50 or so. If you're able to use that money and then leverage it, I just want to provide that solution for these entrepreneurs so they can keep growing, build legacy. Obviously, real estate it's one of the, it always has historically been that's where the wealth is. And if you look at all the billion trillionaires of the world, they own a lot of real estate. So it just help people grow their retirement through debt. It's okay to have that. And then you can keep on moving forward and acquire more assets and grow. It's just another alternative to, the Main Street, that, you can still do the Wall Street, the stocks and bonds, but you want to have other assets in your retirement.
Yeah, for sure. Especially that, real estate oftentimes is appreciating in value, depreciating in paper losses, which is fine for us. When it comes to the write-off, I enjoyed that so much. We just co-segregated a building right now, and we're going to be able to write off, close to $1.6 million on that building alone. So the client is extremely happy. I'm happy because we got all of those paper losses, but in reality, it appraised 2.5. So if we refinance, which the client says that it's going to refinance in 6 months, they're cashing out 2.5. And so that's the benefit, and that's the beauty of investing. Like you were mentioning, right? You want to have a diversified portfolio where it's not only bonds and stocks, but you also have tangible, real property that you can drive by and say, that's mine. Or at least part of it, or equity of it, or if I need cash, I can just go and refinance and have some of that to continue to reinvest, right? This is amazing.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's amazing. And that's what you want. We want these young athletes to start. There's a story with Alex Rodriguez. Everyone probably knows A-Rod, and what he did every time. When he was one of the unicorns of the professional sporting world, is he was buying doors, real estate with his bonus checks, and so he would take, instead of going on whatever, and he was buying. And he just kept on acquiring real estate, and then it turned into thousands of doors. I remember seeing him at a conference, like, wow, that's amazing that he had that. He was thinking forward, not hey, I want to just go out and party or buy fast cars. It's like, I'm investing in my future because I'm not going to be able to play. You just can't. There's only so much shelf life, right? When you're a professional. So.
Yeah, and instead of just throwing your money out there in things and luxury cars or other type of investments, invest in the right vehicles, right, that are going to give you more leverage at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Uh,
appreciating, right? Appreciating
yeah,
asset
that
versus
they're gonna appreciate and value. That you will be able to go in and, like I said, refinance or get a HELOC or some sort of other payments. But um, for those that are familiar with what exactly is a non-recourse loan, and how does it help protect investors from personal wealth?
So, the non-recourse main, so when you typically buy a house, you have to sign personally. So if you don't stop paying that property, then the bank or the lender can come back and take that property, but they also can come after you personally because you're personally liable. So when you, like most conventional loans, when you're out there, that's what they are. They're recourse.
Mhm.
These are just non-recourse. So there's no person, you're not signing personally for that asset. So they only take the asset back, or we only take the asset back if for some reason you can't pay it, and where we're not going after your personal, bank account, your other assets outside of this one particular property.
Mm.
Hope that helps.
Yeah, yes, that helps a lot. So, you're passionate about mentoring young athletes in NIL deals, right? What are the biggest financial pitfalls they are running into right now?
Well, it's an uncharted landscape, so it's definitely been a passion. It's something that I really want to let these let them know what's available out there. In terms of these structures, the solo Ks, the IRAs. Put some money away when you get they're all getting some kind of money, whether it's through the college, the collective, or through these NIL contracts. And it's just at least letting them know, put some of that money away. So because what you see is some of them, especially the big ones or even small ones, they get the money and then all of a sudden there's taxes due on it, or they didn't, they may just put it in their personal account, which is fine. It's not, you can't do that. But then all of a sudden there are some advisory out, the colleges have advisories,
Mhm.
but it's just thinking, it's really more thinking long-term and just so they know what options there are outside of this, and then helping them as they build their brand and they get more NIL deals, and as they stop playing sports, because it's a short lived, right? There's not many kids that go on from college to pro and vice and so forth and so on, but it's
Mhm.
also just really setting up and just having someone there that they know they can at least trust, bounce ideas off of. And for me, it is our kids are our legacy, so that's
Mhm.
ultimately what I hope at least provide. There's very little financial education or literacy in schools, and especially this what we're talking about. I'm just talking
Mhm.
about just a regular bank accounts or just
Yeah.
regular credit, or how to it's just there's very little of that out there. So just as you get more money, how are you handling it? Yes, there's attorneys, yes, there's agents, and they're all very good at what they do, but then it's like, all right, it's always good to educate yourself, right? It's always good to
Mhm.
kind of have a understanding of what I can do, even though 1920, I probably wouldn't have cared. so hopefully they'll take one thing from us. I don't know.
Yeah, no, but you will be surprised how many kids out there now are actually paying attention to the finances, not only because of what they've seen that their parents, we have gone through us, throughout the years. Because my daughters, I'm speaking from my household, right? I have two teenagers, and my oldest is about to be 18. And it's impressive that whenever she receives money either from grandparents, from herself or anyone else, or she does some sort of part-time, she's like, Mom, can I just go and put this in my Roth IRA? Can you please contribute to my 529 plan instead of me, having more money to go and spend and buy more Uber Eats or do other things? And the other day I was just listening to her and she said, Mom, how can I get the statements of my Roth IRA and my 529? And I'm like, oh, okay, let's get that. Let's order that. And she's like, and I was like, what do you need it, hon? Well, I'm about to graduate in May. I want to make sure that I have enough. If not, I need to pick up a part-time, or I need to pick up something or some duties here in the house. And I need to do some chores where you're going to pay me more. But you'll be surprised how many kids are preparing themselves nowadays because, they have a different mentality, right? We also see, others that, yeah, they really don't care. They're
And
not, they're like, I would just hire a financial advisor or financial planner, somebody to do this for me and manage my finances and so forth. But it is good that we're having this conversation. I think that, our generations need this. And a lot of the times we don't focus enough. Like going back to when you were back in high school, I wish, probably you will wish that you will have someone doing what you're doing now. Jesus Christ, if I would have had somebody just to give me like some little bit of guidance back then when I was pushing through college and I was working. I remember, that I was working in one of the warehouses as a manager for Walmart. I was making good money. Because I have always been very driven, and especially when it comes to numbers and projections and business plans and things like that. So, sales and growth and all of that. So I was making money while I was going, but recession came about. I wasn't prepared.
No.
I became homeless. Seriously. Such a young age. I was 22 at the time. And, lost the house I had, lost everything, lost the jobs, because, what happened. And everyone was just getting let go, especially if you were making, more than 100K. You were some of the first ones that were being, let go out of the door. So now that we're having this conversation, it's just fascinating because our young adults can prepare for their future, right? So what kind of team should a student athlete have around them to manage, contracts, taxes, and long-term financial growth?
Well, I think that, there are the resources. So that's one thing I want, they should know that, especially and most colleges have some form of a resource for this now, more so in the D1 spot. So as you get down to the D2, D3, and some of the other, NAIA, it's ever changing. So you got to look at, there's those, use those resources, right? They're there for a reason. They're being built. They're changing all the time. But also, you want to have the, that as also as, just with, a financial advisor, a tax strategist. I mean, they're great to have because they, obviously they know what they're doing, but it's also educate yourself, go ahead and, set up, look into if you can do a self-directed account, like a 401k or an IRA, or do the Roth, absolutely do the Roth. I tell my kids all the time, max your Roth out. I mean, that's max as much as you can, as long as you have it. And then, you also have to save some, you want to have money for the rainy day, but have those advisors and mentors, throughout, my life. I was very fortunate about having certain mentors, at different companies, and, but it just takes time to just reach out to the group of advisors that can really truly want what's besides the agents. Obviously agents know what they're doing when it comes to contracts. They really understand the athletic directors at the schools that, they know what they're doing. But these NIL deals, this stuff's happening in high school now. It's not just even college. It's getting younger and younger. And you're seeing kids that are 9, 10, 11 years old that are getting these type of contracts. So it's not even just the kids, but also the families. Like, how do we structure this, or what do we do with it? Most people are not self-employed or getting this type of income, 1099, or it's that type of income. And it's, some of it is W-2, but it depends how it's structured. So just, have someone review it, just even at least get it reviewed by, a third party. There's different options out there, and they have trusted advisors on the colleges where they can actually go in there. That's just where they're getting, they get registered. And so it's just, bouncing ideas off before you sign anything. I mean, of course, if you have your parents, check with your parents, but also, you want to try to have someone that is in this space yourself. We have the network, we have the attorneys, the tax attorneys, so that's the real estate attorneys. Just, it's worth paying that, $250, $500 or whatever they charge to do this. Like that, it's well worth what for protection.
Yeah, because think for 2 seconds that putting it from a tax perspective, we have someone right now that it's making, 50,000, we will say, but if they're getting a 1099, they're being taxed at 15.3%. So that puts it, and then that's not including income tax, that's your self-employment tax. So that's a lot of money for, to pay in taxes. That's $7,650 you would just pay just in self-employment tax. That's not including income tax, federal and state, depending on the state that you're in, which will add another 22% or plus in accordance to your standard deduction and other things to that nature, right? So all of that money can be redirected into an investment like you're mentioning, and that will save a lot more if they're structured and talking, having the conversation. So those $250 will save you thousands.
It will save you thousands and more. I mean, you never know. It depends on the situation. Every situation is different. So, and there's nothing wrong with having a little fun when you get some money. You work hard for it. So I think everyone should take some and have fun with it. But also, the goals when you're done playing, or when you have a family or there is a recession, that you have this to fall back on. You have this asset that's growing for you, and it's protected. When you have a retirement, there's protections out there. So, that's important as well, how you structure it. So,
Ryan, what will be one advice that you'll say, you have seen that has helped some of the young adults that you have worked with, or the folks that you have worked with, or success stories that stand out for you that you think that our audience could benefit from it, by sharing it today with them?
Well, it goes back to the Roth. Like, get your Roth set while you're younger. A lot of people, they don't think about that. Or if you are getting paid from a business and they're matching anything, utilize every aspect that's available from the companies about putting money into those retirement structures, and just really do your own research. I mean, I think that's that's the most important, is go out there and there's books, there's, like I said, there's YouTube, there's plenty of and just kind of, you always got to be cautious of who's speaking to it, and just trust but verify, and just try and spend 15 minutes a day just going out there and searching about what's available, alternative assets, set up these different, there's all types of there's tons of different options for for what's going on in terms of investing. You can go through the Robinhoods, you can go through the China. There's all types of structures. Go to the big the big accounts. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying one's better than the other. It's just there's a lot of options, and then reach out to people like us and reach out. And we're truly trying to help build the legacy. That's a bit ultimately take advantage of what you can put into a tax vehicle, a tax deferred or tax free vehicle with the Roth.
Yeah.
and it's do it now while you're younger, versus as your income grows, your tax, but you might not be able to put in the Roth component. So it just depends on where your income level is. Wow,
that's fascinating. So Ryan, your podcast focuses on faith, family, fitness, and finance. How does those four pillars shape your own life and business?
It's faith. It took a while for me to go, and there's all different types of faith, out there, and it's something, that there is a higher power, that's something that you have to base on that. And you have to really, that's where everything starts. And then family, of course, to me, it's, it starts with myself, with my wife and the kids. And that's, we want to have, we want them to, everyone wants your kids to be better than what we are. And then, of course, fitness, fitness is, if you're not healthy, you're not taking care of yourself, you can't work, can't make money, you can't. So if you don't have that somewhere in your life, that's, it's always been important to be healthy. And then of course, finance, like we're talking about, it's not to everything, but it's part of that, you have to have all those, take care of your finances, take care of your bank account, your bills. And then, but it's in that order for me. And that's so important. It wasn't always that way. And it's, I'm still not, perfect out there in those situations, but you really try to, what's important in your life, and to me, those are the most important things in our lives, and it all works together. So.
Yeah, it is amazing, because as you're speaking, we look into, there's always, different type of faiths, like you were mentioning, we humans need something bigger to believe, right? And something to satisfy us. The day-to-day challenges are hard. Life can come at you in many different ways. When you're starting, you want to be an athlete and you just broke an ankle. that would be a bit frustrating. And so we have to believe in something, right? Family to be close to. I believe that, that united, when we give priority to those around us. I was talking to some of my clients the other day, and this is a very young couple. They don't give themselves the attention that they deserve or they need right now in their relationship. And as coming from obviously a person, I'm still married with my husband, but being together and married for over 18 years, it's like you learn the ups and downs, and you know that a family needs priority. And when you put everything else before your family time, compromise it with your phones, your distractions, and you're probably a family dinner or things, parents' birthdays or things like that. That kind of like shows a lot in character.
You definitely need to put that away. We try to put the phone down. That's something that we do at dinner. When we're able to all sit down with the family, but you just put the phones away. It's okay if they're not there for a little while, and whether it's dinner or in the morning, take that time to, like you said, find whatever it is that is important to you. Just reading a book, listen to a podcast, or anything. Just take that time away from everything, all the noise, and
nurture yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my daughter, my youngest daughter says this to me every day. Mom, we all have an expiration day, so let's make it count.
Oh, I love that.
And so when I first heard her come to me and said that, she almost made me cry. And so now, it's been over a year, and she says that every day that I leave the house, she's like, Mom, let's make it count. When I come home, she's like, how are we? How are you feeling? And we were having those conversations, and I'm looking at this kiddo and I'm like, geez, like, this is so good because it changes the atmosphere. And sometimes I don't want to go and walk. And sometimes she's like, you've been sitting for over 8 hours. So we're doing the walk. We're going. We gotta get back.
That's a good daughter. There we go.
Yeah. So, those are the things and then my oldest, she's all about finance. That one that I was telling you about, I want to know the statements for my Roth IRA and 529s. So, but those are things that we have to practice on an individual level. I'm so amazed and impressed with what you do, Ryan, for our young adults, for athletes out there. And how can people contact you and find you?
The easiest way is I have the non-recourse loan. That website, of course, is great. You can just go to nonrecoursloan.com, and there's a contact page there for me. And then, of course, also, I'm on LinkedIn as well, if you want to go there. But that's probably the best way would be to go to the nonrecoursloan.com. And then there may be some other options at some point. We're looking at working on another website and to launch everything. So.
Fascinating. So, there's the contact information. If you're out there, we hope that this content is going to do good to you. But remember, you do have help. You have the resources accessible to you. And Ryan, any last words that you would like to leave for our audience before we disconnect?
Just, you got to love yourself before you love anyone else. That to me is, and just like you said, take care of yourself. Every day, enjoy the moment. I always tell my kids that enjoy the moment. So.
Wow, that's huge. Enjoy the moment. So that's a huge lesson, Ryan, because that teaches us to be grateful.
Yes, like you said, very grateful. And it's hard sometimes to do that, but just
it is hard.
enjoy the moment. You never know what tomorrow brings. So.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing this information with us, and we hope to have you soon in another episode. Thank you to our listeners, and we see you in the next one.
Thanks for listening to The Throne of Wealth. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review to help others find the show. A special thanks to our sponsor, King of Kings Accounting Firm, dedicated to helping you build and protect wealth for generations. Until next time, take the reins of your financial future and lead with confidence.